Why do you want to get in shape? Why do you want to increase your chances of living? Because the stats, if you make it to 65, well, you're very likely to make it to 80 or 90. And how do you want to decrease your odds of dying of a heart attack? Why do you want to do that? Being intentional about it and just knowing it's going to be bite-sized pieces, right? Baby steps. And somebody asked me the other day, they said, are you going to stay on that diet? So I'm not on a diet, it's like a lifestyle. Like I have no desire to look how I looked early 2024 whenever I started to feel like I have a much better foundation, a much more solid grounding in education and habits to get going. Just do it. Start with those small changes. They will snowball and you will start to see big changes in your body and your life and your cognitive function and your relationships.
Right, a little interruption before we get into today's episode. So I run these shows sponsor free. We will never take on sponsors because everything is self-funded through our Fit Vegan coaching program. So if you enjoy these shows, the best way to support is obviously to subscribe to the channel. But also, if you know anyone over the age of 50 that is looking to improve their body composition, combat sarcopenia, combat osteoporosis, get healthier on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, to simply send them our way at fitvegancoaching.com, because we are the best in the world in helping people over 50 transform. We have over 1,000 transformation in 20 different countries. So simply send them our way. In addition to that, a percentage of our profit monthly goes towards supporting cancer patients with their treatments and bills and whatever they may need to support themselves and their family. So you're also supporting additional people outside of the work that we'd be doing in the program. That is all I have for you today, so enjoy the episode. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by another special guest, one of our Fit Vegan success stories and someone that I've personally coached for the past year, Mr. Patrick Scott. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we were due to record one because you've had a six-pack for a while now.
Well, it still doesn't look like people in a magazine, but it's more than I've ever seen or ever seen that I can recall.
Yeah, well, we'll dive into like the results that you got and the journey to get there, because there's definitely, you're a very busy man, so there's some ups and downs, and I think you navigated them really beautifully. But just to give some context for the people listening, what is your life like? What do you do for work? Just so people understand that you didn't have 10 hours free per day to work out and just eat healthy food.
So first off, married for 11 years. We have a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old. I own and run a law firm, founded a law firm about 9 years ago, and we do primarily litigation. So I have a trial docket, a pretty busy trial docket, and court hearings and all sorts of other demands on my time. And so whenever I turned 40, I needed to get in gear with my fitness, and I know we'll be talking about some of that, and that's what eventually led me to you.
Yeah, so you've had some moments where you're working on trials, like, hey, I'm busy for the whole week, and we're just gonna have to make a lot of adjustments.
Yes.
Yeah, you're one of the first clients that I've worked with that I had to communicate with the assistant to book calls and all that stuff. That was really fun. It was really efficient.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, just like trying to be more intentional about my fitness, I needed to be more intentional about all the demands on my time in order to make sure I have a healthy marriage and a healthy relationship with the kids. And so I've been blessed that I have an assistant that helps keep me on track and keep everything scheduled and make sure that I'm where I need to be. And for instance, coming into this, providing me with, you'd send me some questions beforehand, which I will admit I did not read through all of them. So a lot of this will be impromptu, but yeah, no, she's great. And that sort of lends to, right, it takes a team, whether that be family or other people, in the work environment, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you definitely inspired me, because I got an assistant 5 months ago after we spoke about it, and it's been a game changer. So 100% worth having that extra person on the team.
Yes. Yeah. And we're an in-person kind of business, kind of law firm. We believe in working at work. And so she's not a virtual assistant. She's like an actual person that sits outside my door and keeps me on track. And make sure that my time is used in the most efficient way possible so that I can get home at a decent hour and so that I can work out in the mornings before I get into the office and all that.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. Well, let's dive into like the beginning of the journey of you prioritizing this area of your life. Like, what is it that made you want to take this on? And I can't remember how you heard about us in the first place. Was it like YouTube or a podcast?
I want to say I was watching something with, was it Dr. Lori, who I think is with
Yeah.
maybe with the team now.
Yeah.
But I think I was watching a podcast or something, and I can't remember if you were advertising on there or speaking on there or something. But I had, whenever I turned 40, 2023, I turned 41 in 2024. But 2023, I turned 40, and so at that point I had transitioned to be mainly vegetarian. So my wife has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. So she was already soy-free, gluten-free, and dairy-free. So the house was already
Pretty
dairy-free and
clean.
gluten-free and soy-free. Well, we thought it was pretty clean. And then that was, part of what the program, has been a great educational benefit to me, because I started developing gout in my late 30s and in one of my toes. And so I've always been a runner, not like a crazy, run a bunch of marathons. But my wife and I, before we got married, we did run a marathon together. And I always say she made me do that before she, would agree to get married. But I wouldn't I don't think I would run another one. I've done some half marathons over the years, but I'd
Yeah.
always sort of run to just, if I've reduced stress or things like that. And of course, my time had dwindled as I got into my mid 30s or so, but definitely my late 30s, I developed gout in one of my toes. And so, of course, I don't want to get on medicine or anything. And so I'd seen a bunch of, several doctors and they run lab tests and everything. And so it prevented me from running. And so for whatever reason, my uric acid levels, which is one of the big things that causes gout, um, were just really high. They just run high for some reason. I don't know why. And so I had already looked at going plant based, and so for 2023 time frame, I had went mainly vegetarian, but just basically listened. I had Dr. Greger's book on audio. I consume most books on audio because of the kids and work and everything. It's I don't get to actually like sit down and have quiet time to read. Of course, I have to read a lot, as part of my job. Um, but I was consuming Dr. Greger's books on audio and had mainly, I'd slowly cut out meat and alcohol and things like that, trying to get control of the gout without having to use medication. And so that's why I was just looking for more education on what I needed to be eating, because I actually had 2023. I had hired a trainer to work out with me a few days a week at the gym, and he's telling me to eat like Ezekiel muffins with peanut butter, and I just need like tons of protein, and what else did he tell me to? Oh, like basically what he was eating, which is like a pound of ground beef, and all
Yeah.
these things that I really couldn't eat because of the gout. But he really didn't know a whole lot about nutrition. I mean, I think he knows his way around the gym. However, as far as nutrition goes, which I've learned through your program is such a huge part of it, he didn't know a lot about that. And that's what got me kind of looking for, hey, what's a program where I can, even though it's not in person, where I can have some accountability and structured education on the nutrition and the fitness side of things.
Yeah. Well, was there any apprehension to doing something online? Because it seems like you had doing like a little bit more experience with doing things in person.
Yes, yeah, lots of apprehension, especially because I don't know how you currently have it structured, but the way the program was structured at the time, right, is it's one lump sum payment, and so okay, I'm going to pay this lump sum, and even my wife, she's like, well, are you even going to like them, or what do they do again? They send you it's all on an app, and what if you don't like it? And so, yeah, that was the main apprehension, was just sort of the investment. I mean, when you do the math for the in-person trainer, it's like about the same as what I was paying him to work out with me a couple of times a week. Plus I was getting the nutrition, which is how I sold it to her. Like, hey, I'm basically just prepaying for X number of months, but I'm going to stop with the in-person
With the trainer,
in-person
yeah.
trainer. Yes. And I'm going to go with this online program. I'd say that was probably the biggest apprehension, just the monetary investment, because it's not like a month to month. I mean, it's a commitment, which is good though, because it's like, okay, well, I committed to do this
Yeah.
financially, so I'm kind of all in at this point, because my wife would never forgive me if I sign up for something for several months
And then do it.
yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, you did grab like the biggest investment package, which was to work with me directly, right? And that's why for me, like I don't take on any clients anymore. Like I said, you and the other two people are like the last few people that I'm going to be coaching. The rest is with our team. And to me, I was like, I'm not doing month to month for me. I was just one lump sum. Let's get the job done. Let's get the transformation done. But yeah, again, I'm excited to see your photos because of, you've sent me photos of your business headshots that you've had when you first started versus the ones that you have now. And like, there's a massive difference.
Yes, yeah, I didn't realize how fat I looked, actually, and
It was
not
holding in
until
the
you.
cheeks.
Yeah. Well, and in my stomach and front area and my back, and I didn't even know my
Yeah.
back could really make any kind of V. And so it's cool to. I mean, I've never been a big guy, and so I've always been a smaller. I'm actually back. So now I'm at about 130 pounds, give or take 130 pounds, which is where I was at 20 plus years ago. I actually was an intelligence analyst in the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
and and back then I'm about the weight that I was in the Marine Corps, and
Yeah.
I've always been, even when I first went to Marine Corps boot camp at 17. I they call them diets and double rats. So if you're a double rat, they make you eat double. If you're a diet, they put you at the back of the line and take a bunch of the food away from you. So me and another guy were double rats. So they were trying to put weight on us. So I've just never been a big buffed up
Yeah. Yeah.
guy. And then, of course, when I got out of the Marine Corps, 2005, went to college and then went to law school. Just slowly, I finished law school in 2010. And so through the course of pursuing my career and then having a small child at the beginning of COVID 2020, and um, we actually 2020 had we had a used pool table in one of the extra rooms. So we put some exercise equipment, but I never was on like a program or really fitness regimen, probably in like the 20 years since I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, had done some running here and there, but never anything like really structured like what I've had through your program, through Fit Vegan.
Yeah. That has nothing to do with the program, but that's interesting. I didn't know there was like if you're on a diet or double, and then just give you less food. They give you the food of the other person, basically, so you can put on some weight.
Yeah, I would try to at they call it the chow hall. So at the chow hall, I would actually try to sit with the diets, and then when the drill instructors weren't looking, I'd try to give them some of my food, because inevitably you would have to do like PT after chow, after you
Yeah.
eat, and so it's like, well, I can't eat all this food, and then
Go
go out there.
exercise after.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But no, it's cool being down to the weight I was at years
Yeah.
ago, and I had gotten up to almost 160 whenever I started the program.
Because you're
And
124 on your last check-in, which was a couple days ago.
yes, so I want to be, yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of fluctuating now between 124, 125, 127, somewhere around
Yeah.
that. Which, like I told you at first, whenever I started getting below 130, I got kind of nervous. But
Yeah.
uh, but if I think back, I mean, when I first joined the Marine Corps, I was actually at like 115, 117, and so I was and I was also had just turned 17, but um, anyway, so I've been this light before. It's just been a very, very long time.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like you have a very athletic build, right? Like we're like you and I were not like super big guys, but we have a really like nice athletic build. Your back is shredded. Like the amount of definition you have on your back now, you have a six pack now. Um, yeah, honestly, that's a great physique. Like being big is fun, which we're gonna do a little bit because you're starting your reverse diet like next week, I believe. So we're gonna start to add more food, and we'll do a bit of a lean muscle building phase with that. Right now, you're at peak level leanness, which to me you look phenomenal. Like people will see on the thumbnail, but there's a massive difference in your photos. Um, I'd love to talk about like the beginning of the program when you joined, because obviously you guys were a nutrition aware household because of your wife going through Hashimoto and you kind of dealing with gout. You were exercising with the trainer. So when you came in, what had shifted that allowed you to kind of go down the path to start to see some results at that point? Like what was it? What was different?
I think you're in some of the first, and I will, I went to many of the group calls, which are great to have in the very beginning, like the first 3, 6 months. I went to a lot of the group calls, and then we had, just having little kids, it just got kind of hard. And then you told me because you said it's required, which is good that
Yeah.
it's like required. And so in those first calls, though, and you were leading one of them on sleep and so it was I had never gotten dialed in on sleep or focused on it. I was drinking like a ton of coffee. I would drink a cup in the afternoon after lunch. I would drink, all kinds of Starbucks drinks that have all kinds of non-healthy things in them, a bunch of sugar and stuff. So but the sleep, I think getting dialed in on sleep, so getting my wife on board that, hey, like 9:30, we are in bed at 9:30. It is like a deadline. And
Yeah.
even like 2 nights ago, I asked my wife because it was like, what time is it? She said 9:32. I said, okay, good. We're on time. It's 9:30. And then I don't wake up with an alarm. So I just wake up between, 5:30. This morning I woke up at like 4:50, 4:55, laid there till 5. Um, and even on the weekends now, I pretty much still get up around 6 o'clock or so, but try to really go to bed at 9:30, which the kids, we start putting them down at 8. And then my wife and I get a little bit of time together, after we put the kids down and then just to be in bed. But I think getting blackout curtains, right, had never done that. Getting
Mhm.
rid of the electronics near the nightstand. So I charge my phone on a dresser across the room. Um,
Cutting out
just having
caffeine early.
that's right, cutting out caffeine. So like even today, I 11 o'clock is kind of like my ultimate cutoff. And now I only do black coffee and green tea. So I'll do two cups. I try not to go over 2 cups of black coffee in the morning, and then I'll do a green tea, um, like a matcha Japanese green tea that I get at this little local health food store. Um, but that's like the extent of my caffeine. Some days, right? And Andrew Huberman talks about this and others. Some days if I need to perform cognitively and I've got something really difficult to work through, I'll extend the green tea out. Hardly ever coffee anymore because my body's
Yeah.
gotten adapted to not having so much caffeine. But I might do a green tea, closer to 1 o'clock or even like as part of the program, as you know, I studied for a board certification test
Yeah.
in Texas for my practice area. And,
Which you
you know,
passed, by
two,
the way.
which I passed. Yes. So thankfully I did. So that was good. But I drank, I went out in the hall and got some coffee at 2 o'clock. Like that's an example of, it was 2 or 3 o'clock and I was drinking coffee. Well, I really needed to, it's like the test is all day long and
Yeah.
you're in a room, it's like a 1 hour lunch break, which during the break, I went outside like grounded and didn't talk to anybody and just had brought my food that day to eat. Um, so yeah, just kind of overall tuning in. We thought we were we ate pretty clean. Now we don't really even we hardly go out to dinner. And the biggest
Yeah.
thing I'll say, the biggest sort of shock to me or surprise to me is taste buds. Like your taste, I've always heard like, oh, your taste buds change, but they really will change. Even yesterday, we did an offsite planning session with the firm leadership at a local hotel, and so I had order ahead from the hotel. They make you order at that hotel restaurant, which is good, right? Because it's right there. But I'd ordered like a cauliflower wrap
Yeah.
because it was the only option. But then the person next to me got a salad, and I looked at the salad and I was like, "That looks really good." It's like my mouth is watering looking at this beautiful salad versus I had this cauliflower tortilla rice. I mean, it was still relatively healthy,
Yeah.
but you start to crave like like here we have this Salata, it's a salad place, and there's some days where it's just like I just want a huge salad. That's all I want, a huge salad with tons of vegetables. And I used to never be that way, so and even coffee now. I mean, I'm happy with black coffee,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Don't eat all the sugar and the creamer in there and all the excess of 200, 300, 400 calories.
No. And you don't even, at first I thought I needed that, the first few months. And then like my weight wouldn't drop and I would put in there in the check-in, like, well, I had ordered Starbucks a couple of times because I really needed it just takes, it's bite-sized pieces, right? And changing these little things in order to get an overall change in
Yeah.
your lifestyle and everything.
Yeah. So in terms of nutrition, like the taste bud changing and craving different things, how has the proportion or distribution of your food changed from before being in a program and then starting the program and progressing along your transformation?
We definitely eat less Uber Eats, so that's good. You don't realize how much oil, and even if you order from a place you think is really clean, I mean,
Yeah.
unless it's just straight up salad, it's probably got all sorts of stuff in it that makes me feel not great, even if I feel okay when I'm eating it. But how's the proportion changed? I mean, just I eat more. Like let's just take a smoothie for example. I didn't realize the amount of calories in fruit, and so
Hmm.
I would order, or like I would have I was doing a smoothie in the morning, but I was putting the whole bag. What is like 16 ounces of berries or something. The small.
Yeah.
You get them at Sprouts or whatever grocery store. And so I would put like the whole bag, and then I'd put a banana and maybe a date. Well, I didn't realize, how many calories were in that. And so now,
And a little
right?
protein too.
Yeah, exactly. So now I prep like the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients. And so then it's like, okay, 1 cup of berries with some kale and just put that in in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. And then in the morning, I just have to blend it up and I'm ready to go. So that's one example of proportion, right? So a cup of berries or maybe a cup of fruit in my smoothie instead of, 2 cups and a banana and a date and
Yeah.
whatever else that tastes good.
Yeah. Or just you're monitoring your calories because obviously they've gone lower as we've progressed into the cut. Um, how has training changed? Like what kind of like physical or strength changes have you seen as you progress along?
Yeah, so that's the thing I've been most happy with um, is just having a structure. I need like structure because what would happen before, right? Is I mean, I could just work all the time. Like I could literally
Hmm.
sleep under my desk. And if I wasn't married, my wife will get home and be mad at me because I'm coming home late or whatever. But I could literally just constantly work. So I would go to the gym and I would start doing a few exercises, and then I would just be like, I got work to do. Like I'm going to leave. Well, I didn't have a program.
Hmm.
Um, the few times a week I might work out with that trainer, which was not super consistent, but we might do one lower body workout a week, and then now it's two. The current program you have for me, I have 2 upper body, 2 lower body, and then some cardio built in that during the cut phase.
Yeah.
But I love it now. Like it's this morning I did lower body. I'm doing 30 pounds more than my body weight. So the working set I did was 155, which is, just in proportion to my body weight, I'm happy with. It's nice being able to like record myself, send it to you, let you critique me. And then I have the last few months, I do have a trainer that I meet with a few times a week to help on some of the exercises I'm not comfortable with. So like he's helped me with deadlift. And I got that idea from one of the group calls. Somebody said, well, if you're not comfortable, just hire somebody to work with that specific. It can be nice sometimes. I mean, obviously you're leading the program, you're programming it. So we use your program. And then and that's what I told the trainer. I said, look, I need help with, I'm not comfortable with deadlifts, like my form. It's so many things for me to think about. Maxime's helping me, but here's the program. And so he's helped with that. But yeah, I'm happy with I'm happy with sort of the progression that I've made as far as the weights go.
Yeah, because you've gotten a lot stronger. Even on your deadlift videos and in your squat, you can tell that you're more powerful in your legs and like just how the weight goes up compared to like the beginning. So again, they said this is the first time you're at that shape, and you said over 20 years, 20-year period?
Probably 20 years since I've been this. Like I said, I've never been a big guy, but having just been in the Marine Corps, and even though I was an intelligence analyst, you're still doing a lot of PT and everything else. But yeah, the first time in 20 years I've been at this. Just my career just really dominated my life, and then you get so busy with family and especially kids. Little kids will just absolutely make you crazy, and then you have no time and sleep deprivation when they're really small, and you just end up eating whatever. Uber Eats. We were eating
Convenience.
a lot of Uber. Yes. Yeah, I got those notifications on my apps the first few months, like, we haven't seen you in a while. Here's a coupon. Or
Come
whatever.
back.
Yeah.
We'll offer you this for free. You get this 50% off on your next order. So actually, I was going to ask you a question about actually, let me just ask you this. What are things that you have noticed about when your body's been changing with all the weight that you've lost and how lean that you've gotten? Potentially things that you remember from 20 years ago is like, oh yeah, I remember all the benefits from being this lean or being this fit. Like what are some of those things that you have noticed or that you haven't seen in a long time?
Well, it's hard for me to kind of remember because my body's aged, obviously, and I'm a lot older now than I was then. But as far as the benefits, I've noticed the biggest one, right, is the gout is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And that I can run. Like the 5-year-old has a little scooter, and so last week he's on the scooter while I was jogging next to him. And it's not completely gone. Like there are times where I'll kind of feel it some, but I have a routine in the morning now. I drink lemon juice, and that helps, but no medication, obviously. So the biggest thing is the gout is gone. Especially when walking, and so I can run again if I choose to. Haven't done a lot of running in the program because of, we're trying to do more resistance and things like that. But so that's big. And then I think just overall, right, is cognitive function. And so in these cases, kind of like being a surgeon, like being in surgery, and just able to think better, feel better. Like going to bed at 9:30, cutting my caffeine out, I feel pretty good about, okay, the next day I've got X thing I have to do that's going to be very taxing. I'm going to feel like right now, I feel pretty good. Like I used to get some headaches more often. I don't get, knock on wood, I haven't been sick. That's another thing the program or you taught me, or the program where it takes a little elderberry
Yeah.
every day, especially during the winter months. So I think that's just allowed me to, I mean, I don't think I've missed a day of work in, you know, not that I would miss much work before. I got to be really sick to not come to work. Um, but yeah, that's been good. The cognitive function, just being more kind of feeling like I'm like more with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so let me ask you this, because people can, I'm sure people can kind of hear that you're very busy, right? And obviously you value your family, you're very driven by work, and that sensation of, you just work all the time and sleep under the desk. And like, if you weren't married, you weren't going through this. Like I completely understand the feeling. So, as we've went through this journey of getting leaner and, optimizing your nutrition and your training, and, now adding in the cardio and all those things, there were, bumps in the roads. There were cases that happened when on vacation. There was different work trips that you went on. So was there any moments where you went quote unquote off track, or it was a situation that was less than ideal? And how did you overcome it? Like, what was a framework that you've used to allow yourself to continue to make progress? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that part.
Yeah. I mean, so there was one time, I can't remember what happened. I think I got COVID. I've had COVID 2 or 3 times. One of the times was like after a trial, just your immune system's depleted and but at some point during this last year, 2024, I got COVID, and it flared my gout. I don't know what happened, but it flared so then my foot is hurting, right? And you hear all this stuff of like, well, you need to eat more meat, and I'm not eating meat, and my body's out of whack because I need to eat more meat. And I don't have a problem eating meat. I mean, I like to say I'm whole food plant based. Like, I mean, I don't have anything against eating meat. I just think it's a healthier, the research shows, the science shows, if we're whole food plant based, that it's just a healthier option. The odds are, I mean, there's all sorts of things that
Yeah.
can end our short time here on this earth. But yeah, but I can remember sending you that video, start doing my check-in and saying like, why am I doing this? Like, this is a pain in the butt to do all this whole food, or to do all this cooking or whatever, and
Yeah.
I have gout. So like, I had gout before, why don't I do this? And so it was good to just have you to say like, hey, stick with the program. And I just equate it to like turning a big ship, right? And so it just takes,
Yeah.
it's bite-sized pieces, and it's such a and that's what the program I think has really been great about, is the structure and the education on like sleep, right? That was a piece that I had really never focused on. And so I ended up getting I think the option I did, I don't think it came with a Whoop, but I got it. You recommended I get a Whoop, which
Yeah.
I still wear, and that's helpful. Anything to just sort of like, the next day you have a journal you fill out, it sort of forces you to, and you kind of start to learn like what's having an impact on your sleep and what's not. Um, and so, yeah, in the discouraging moments, I think like sticking through it. I mean, you do it for a year, then you'll be kind of in a habit, which is where I'm at now. So the night
Yeah.
before, right? So how do you stay on track, or whenever you have a challenge? I think just sticking to, like the night before at night. So what I do once before I go to sleep, put my clothes out for the next day. I put my shoes out. I actually prep like the coffee and everything to help me get out the door to go to the gym. Do that the night before, and then I wake up and have my routine. And so now it's
Yeah.
just, yeah. And even going to bed at the same time. I mean, that was a struggle with my wife. Um,
I was gonna say it's a
that
big thing to shift in a household.
Yes, and turning the electronics off, and even me just being very disciplined, like not having my phone near me for typically from dinner after. I try not to have my phone near me. Um, and so we have a rule, like she can't my wife works in the business as well, and so she was in the medical field as a dietitian, right? And so it's also kind of a struggle to get her to go whole food plant based because a lot of her training is being a
Yeah.
dietitian, and she still eats meat and but she's eating a ton more vegetables, and so she's also lost all her baby weight. Even yesterday or 2 days ago, we took some photos um, for the business, and she said last night, she said, that was like a 0 or 00 or something pants that she had gotten into. And so, of course, you get on the program, your loved one, right? They're probably eating a lot of the same things you're going to be eating,
Yeah, they
but
benefit from it.
yeah, she's lost a lot of weight too. But that was hard in the beginning, just getting her on board with sleep, and I was sending her YouTube videos on, going to sleep at the same time. There's some guy, I can't remember his name, but he says like you should sleep in separate rooms. And she said, well, I watched that video, but we're definitely not sleeping in separate rooms. I said, okay, well, that's for one thing, we don't have another room, but
Yeah.
um,
I have
but
friends that
she's
do that.
really,
Yeah, I can't do it. That's to me, that's a bit of I don't want that for my relationship, but I can see how for sleep it might be better. They like it. I couldn't do it.
yeah, love and relationships are complicated. It's whatever works for them. But my
Yeah.
wife agreed to have a set bedtime. She did not agree to, separate living arrangements, which I think is better for our marriage. Because we
Yeah.
have to get over whatever arguments we have before we go to sleep, because we're going to be right next to each other.
Yeah.
But that was tough, and but like anything, right? I mean, just it's kind of like, okay, why are we doing this? And then once you get over 40, especially for lawyers have an extremely high suicide rate, really high burnout or out rate,
Hmm.
just high rate of disease in general. Putting, it's a very, especially when you're doing litigation, it can be a very, I mean, it's an adversarial system and process, and you have to have ways to manage stress. And so I think that's the other way the program, is helpful. It's just learning through these courses that you guys do and your coaches do, whether it be breathing or whatever it is, to manage stress and stretching and something to be able to um, unwind and manage that. Because I mean, every job has stress, right? I mean, I worked at
Yeah.
Burger King in high school before I joined the Marine Corps. Well, heck, that's stressful when you're in the drive-through, and you got like the timers going down, and you only have so many minutes to make the drinks and the burgers, and the person's like yelling at you about their food, and this other guy's mad because he says the burger's cold. Like that's stressful too. Like every job has stress, right? I think lawyers though are just more prone to just burn out. They're taking on all these really other burdens and issues. There's
Yeah.
a lot of secondary trauma in a lot of fields of law, and so I just have seen a lot. I have seen a lot of people in their lives, um, or just burn out completely. That are great lawyers, provide great service to their clients, but they don't take care of themselves. And so that's a wake up call, um, to me, and another reason that I did the program, and I've enjoyed the structure of the program.
Yeah. I was gonna say it sounds like, again, obviously we've been working together for over a year now, but I think it's, from what I've seen, is allow you to set more boundaries around, like, again, optimizing your sleep, cutting out the caffeine before to ensure that you get good sleep, having a stable bedtime. You're really good at outsourcing and bringing in people to help and support to alleviate stress so that you can have that time with your family, so that you can have that time for work. Like I said, at one point you brought in a chef to kind of help with the meals. And that was a period that was like very helpful, where you made a lot of progression during that time. Um, yeah. So I guess my oh, sorry, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, well, even now, so we do have a lady that helps with, we call it like just helping with meal prep, and so she had cleaned our house, and then my wife and I said, hey, how do you feel about doing meal prep? And at first we thought, hey, we can just have her cut the vegetables and things. And then she's like, no, I love being in the kitchen. And so she helps out now, and it's a lot more affordable than, hiring some person that specializes in,
In cooking,
food
yeah.
service or cooking or whatever. But just going to I mean, literally, it's the lady that used to help us clean our house and um, clean our office, and she comes in a few days a week now, and she does helps with some of the meal prepping, and of course we have to plan out we order the groceries and plan out the
Yeah.
meals, and the meal plans from Fit Vegan were really helpful in the very early beginning. Now a lot of times I'll switch out, to try to make the calories match.
Yeah.
Um, and just Dr. Gregory's new cookbook came out on April 22nd, How Not to Age. And so he's got his other cookbook, How Not to Diet. And, we really like, Fit Vegan's got some great recipes too, but we like those recipes. So we'll switch those out. But yeah, trying to like delegate out, like, okay, how can I get time? Because what was happening, right, is on Sunday, we were doing a lot of meal prep, and then I wasn't getting out time with the kids.
Yeah.
On Saturday, I may have to work some Saturdays, at least a half day or so, but Sunday now is like all kids. We try to make it so Saturday and Sunday is all family time, but having somebody come in to the house a few days a week, and just basically somebody that, like, we already knew her. We trust her in the house. She we plan the meals, we order the groceries, whether it be Instacart or whatever, and get them to the door, and then she helps us out with that. So then you have time, like kale chips, for instance, is something that takes a while.
Long time. Yeah.
It takes a few hours to make those, and so I would make them like special occasions. But now, having her, she's still helping us, a few days a week, and so that's really great. And at
Yeah.
some point, I want to talk about the travel part too, but we'll
Yeah.
probably get
Well,
to that.
we can dive into that now because you've traveled quite a bit, and I think you've figured out some good systems to be able to stay on track. Because if you would have handled those travels potentially the way that you were handling them prior to the program, I don't think we would have made as much progress because it was such a big chunk of your time. So let's definitely talk about travel.
Yeah, so your program and you've been really helpful with that. I mean, I don't travel a ton, but maybe once a month. I mean, I guess everything's relative, but for me, I'll maybe travel once a month. I'll be out of town 3 or 4 days a month typically. Um, and so before, right, I would just eat the hotel breakfast, like whatever they had. A lot of times I'm going to a class or seminar or conference or something, and I would just eat whatever they had. If they had ordered Chick-fil-A or whatever they ordered, that's what I would
Yeah.
have. Because anytime you go to those types of things, sometimes the food's good and sometimes it's not. But normally there's not vegan options. But you have been really helpful in just pack protein powder. The no cal protein bars. I always pack at least one of those for every
Yeah.
day. And then I'll got like a little blender. And so I'll pack a little blender, and then on your advice, whenever I'm in the, going in the Uber, going from the airport to the hotel, I'll order um, some leafy greens and berries, and then just use that little blender. The only thing about the little blender is you have to check a bag. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of a drag. So if I'm going somewhere just for like one night, a lot of times I would skip the smoothie. But if I'm staying at least 3 nights or so, 2 or 3 nights or more, I'll normally just check the bag. Sometimes the blender gets through and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, they send you back out. It takes forever. So it's easier to just check it. But yeah, but I think, just being like anything, right? A routine, a process, a plan. That's what you provided. And from the workouts to the advice on, hey, when you travel, you land, order. And some hotels don't have, I stayed at some hotel and they didn't have a fridge or freezer or something, but the front desk has a fridge.
Yeah.
And so I just had them, or, keep the stuff. And then I would just go down there and say, hey, I'm in room, whatever. This is like a small town, or I can't remember, but trust me, the hotel's got a fridge and
Somewhere.
a
Yeah.
freezer somewhere. Yeah. um, and so that's been good. And then I just feel better, right? Whenever
Yeah.
I travel, I'm less fatigued, and I'm also not trying to hunt around in an airport for something that, because you almost can't even eat it at those airport
It's
restaurants.
yeah, it's tough to find something healthy at an airport. In a lot of the states, like even LA, it's pretty tough to find some healthy food, and it's LA, right? It should be the land of healthier foods. But some people might say like, oh, it seems like a lot of work to do that, but I feel like not going to the front desk and putting the food in the fridge or in the freezer, or bringing it or checking a bag with your blender, that's still less work than eating food and feeling terrible for the whole duration of your trip. Like, to me, I'd rather feel good with a little bit of extra effort than to feel like crap because I didn't want to buy fruits and vegetables on Instacart and get it shipped to the hotel.
Yes. Yeah. I pack a lot of it now in Amazon, you got like a little $30, $40 like collapsible refrigerated bag. And
Yeah.
so I'll take that in my backpack as a carry-on the plane. And then of course you can't take like soup, it's like liquid,
Yeah.
but and hummus is kind of hit and miss. So I just try to take all like the tofu scramble, anything solid, and I
Yeah.
put that. I didn't even before the program, honestly, I had never traveled with food. I didn't even know you could travel with food.
Hmm.
Apparently, but somebody told me bodybuilders do it all the time. They travel with all their
With their
food,
meals.
but
Yeah.
yeah, last time I went through the airport screening like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, typically it will get checked, but the guy just opens the pouch and he said, "Looks like food to me," and then he closed it and handed it back to me.
Yeah.
And and it just saves a ton of time too. The last I went to a conference actually in San Diego a few weeks ago, and we had a 1 hour. It was lunch on your own for an hour. Well, it was nice. I've got my food there. I don't have to, I can network with people or catch up on work stuff or whatever during that hour. And then in the evening, right, I already have my food. I don't have to worry about where am I going to order from or where am I going to get it from.
Yeah.
And 99% of hotels will have a mini fridge they can put in a room for you,
Yeah.
or they already have one in the room.
Yeah. You remove the aspect of temptation, because let's just say you have a whole day at the conference. It's tiring to just sit all day. And then you get to your hotel and you're like, oh, I'm really tired, I'm gonna order something. The temptation of clicking on this button versus that button is so easy to order the wrong thing, even though it was as simple as putting your thumb to the left and ordering the healthy thing. But you're more likely to order the bad thing, versus if you have some of your food ready, then you're like, I don't have to pay $15 of delivery and wait an hour for my food to get here. I already have something.
Yeah, and I've learned that the key to not eating crap is just being well fed.
Yeah.
And so even there's a mediator's office I go to, or even like vendors bring cookies and all kinds of stuff by the office. And so as long as if I know I'm going into an environment that is going to have things that I'm going to be tempted to eat, I just eat before I go. Like even a kid's
Yeah.
birthday party, we went to some little kid's birthday party, and I knew they were going to have like pizza or ice cream or whatever for his 5-year-old classmate, and so I just made sure we all ate dinner before we went,
Yeah.
and even when we went, our son ate a little bit of pizza, but he didn't eat all pizza. Well, we had already eaten some at the house, and that's the other thing about being whole food plant based is I feel like you can eat a lot of food and not have as many calories. So I do it, and I've dropped weight, but I'll say that I'm not like starving or anything. And I kind of listen to my body too. Even though, I know to like cut down even more, it would probably require me to be a little more fatigued. But if I'm having a super mentally stressing day and I'm hungry, like I'll just eat something. And no, it's food that I brought, or it's, or if I don't bring enough food, I might order a salad or something from Uber Eats. But
Yeah, it'll make a
um,
healthy option.
yes, yeah. Um, so it hasn't been, I've had some challenges. I think the main thing is just getting out of the habit of like drinking the Starbucks, of
Yeah.
drinking the, I used to order a vanilla latte, and because it tasted good. I had no idea. Let me say this. I had no idea that there's a coffee you can get called a macchiato, which is because I never knew what all those coffees were on the menu.
Yeah.
But all it is like espresso shot and a little bit of milk. So I'll get like a macchiato has what, 15 calories or something, which is two
Yeah.
espresso shots typically with a little bit of oat milk. And I just didn't even know that existed. And
Yeah.
so if I'm whatever going to a coffee shop with somebody, I might get a cappuccino. If I'm meeting somebody for coffee for a meeting or something, I might get a cappuccino or even a macchiato or just a black coffee, um, which I found is very tasty whenever you get your body used to it. Um, and so just sort of educating yourself on the other, you can still go to the coffee shop. You can still get a coffee that tastes great. It just doesn't have to be loaded down with like, it doesn't be like a white chocolate mocha.
Yeah.
And you know what? You won't even want the white chocolate mocha after you spend months drinking the black coffee or the espresso. Eventually you will actually really, really like I really like black coffee, and I really like green tea without anything in it.
Yeah. Your body will adapt to whatever, right? Like people get in such a habit of like ordering those sugary coffee drinks with the side of pastry, right? Because people feel like
Mhm.
it's a combo that has to go together. But yeah, you can learn to fall in love with black coffee. You can learn to fall in love with a macchiato or a cappuccino or a flat white. Um, then latte, you get into like more. There's more nut milk basically in there, so a bit more calories. But yeah, you can definitely learn to fall in love with black coffee. It's just yeah, you might not like the first few cups for a bit, but then you get used to it. Yeah,
Yeah, but it just takes time. And I'd always heard that, right? Your taste buds will, I don't know what the math is, so many weeks, but they'll change. It actually will happen. You just have to give it time.
yeah,
And then you feel, I mean, like most days, I feel really good. Of course, there are days where I'm super stressed out or I don't sleep well. It's not like, oh, your life is going to be perfect if you eat whole food, plant-based, and you follow these things. You will feel wonderful. Well, no, of course
solve
not,
all your
right?
problems.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're going to have nights you don't sleep good. You're going to have nights where maybe Whoop says you slept great and you still feel bad, or maybe like
Yeah,
today I was in the red on Whoop because my HRV was low, but I'm still due to do a leg workout. And
yeah,
I'm going out of town tomorrow, so I still did it. I feel really good. I don't know. Sometimes that I try not to get too mixed up in the how the wearable says I slept. I just
yeah.
know
But
whenever.
it's
Go ahead.
basically giving you a score for your body, not for necessarily how you feel. So like mentally you might be tired, but physically
Mhm.
your body is able to handle the stress of like a workout basically. So like mentally today I feel like a 50%. Well, my body was a 94 on Whoop this morning. So I'm still going to do my
Good.
my two training sessions today. So I just, got a little extra coffee this morning and then I brought the brain back up to like 75. But the score is more a representation of like how much the physical body can take on in terms of stress. Because you might still
Mhm.
wake up like groggy and tired a little bit, which, they're not, the number is not tied to how you feel in your head. It's more the physical body. Um, there's three more things I want to talk about with you.
Yes.
Right.
Go
So
ahead.
one is when you hit your lowest point of 123. All right. So let's start with that one because I think that's an interesting story for people to hear because you're not the only one to do that. And it's a very common habit. I think I was on a digital detox
Yes.
as you did your check-in and you weighed in at like 123 point something, which was like your lowest check-in that we've ever had together. And
Mhm.
then I was on a digital detox. So that week, you continued. And I think you decided to eat more food because you thought it was too light of a body weight. So you self justified to eat more food. And then I came back and then your weight was like, was like 125 or something. You only went up by like 2 pounds or so.
Mhm.
And then I had a conversation with you. Do you mind kind of sharing what was going through your head at the time and what was the lesson for you after?
Oh, I just felt like I kind of freaked out. I'm like, oh man, I'm too light. This is crazy. Like I haven't been this light a long time, and I need to be building weight. And what am I? I need to be, building muscle. And what am I doing? Getting this light, and I should be eating more food. So I just added in like bananas, and I mean, I didn't add in a bunch of too much mess, but I ate more of the
What calories?
muffins,
Yeah,
which we make like for the kids and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, you told me just kind of don't worry about the scale and just
yeah,
worry, and so I just need to focus on how I feel. And I mean, that's a good thing about the program though, right? You have somebody every week to check in with and bounce things off of instead of just bro science, some guy at the gym, or, it's like taking financial advice from a broke person or something. We take nutrition advice from my whatever colleague or whoever.
yeah, yeah. Because I think what I remember telling you is don't worry about the low weight because it's just a representation of how much muscle mass you have now with the amount of with a lower body fat, basically. So if we were to, when we do to continue to reverse diet and go into a lean muscle building phase, you could be the same body fat percentage, but maybe at 130 because you'll have more muscle on your frame. So I said like the 123 is just a representation of where you are now. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just if we want to be heavier, we need to put on more muscle, basically, which we're going to enter in the next phase. But the reason I want to bring it up is because like your response of like, I shouldn't be this light, I should eat more food. Like so many people do that because they're just like, no, it shouldn't be this way. Let me just kind of eat more food or do less exercise or do more exercise. People want
Mhm.
to, which I understand there's a sense of control, right? Kind of take control back of like, no, I need to like do this because I don't agree with how this is progressing, which is fine. But that's why it's valuable, like you said, to have a coach to be like, no, we're on track. We're doing the right thing. Like the next step is coming in a few weeks. But I think you handled it pretty well. Like on the way back, you're like, okay, I understand why this is happening.
Yes. Yeah. My wife would watch some of your check-ins and say, he's right. And she's a dietitian. So that should, that
Yeah.
would give me confidence, whatever doubts I may have had.
Yeah. Well, I know my stuff a little bit. I've been at it for a while now,
Yeah.
um,
When, yeah,
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna ask you the next question. So feel free to share your point.
No, no, no. You go ahead.
So I was gonna say one of the things is we're about to step into reverse dieting. Are you excited for it? Any apprehension? Any like how you feeling about slowly increasing the food as we enter the next chapter?
Um, I mean, I feel like what would be nice to put more muscle on, but I know that takes a really long time. And so it'll be good this last few months I have with you in the program just to get educated on, okay, how do I gain muscle without gaining fat? That's
Yeah.
what I'm looking forward to, more just the educational component of putting muscle on, putting weight on, but not getting fat again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for you to go through it. You'll like you got stronger along the way. You will get even stronger at a more rapid rate as we go through the reverse side because you're just physically gonna like you're gonna eat more food, so your muscles will be fuller, and it's such an incredible feeling. You'll get about like halfway to three quarters of the way through the reverse diet. You'll be like, oh, I'm lifting all this weight. I added 20 pounds here, 40 pounds here. Like, remember this for when you get to that point. You'll see it just kicks in and you're like, oh my God, I'm unstoppable right now. Your testosterone goes up 100 points. You just feel so good, right? Not scientifically, I'm not saying that for real, but you just
Right.
feel like you have more testosterone. You just feel stronger. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
So the other thing I want to ask is obviously you've had a successful body recomposition transformation. So a lot of the people that are listening are, maybe at the beginning stages of it, maybe they're halfway through it and they're, mentally struggling with it. What are pieces of advice that you would share with them that are things that have helped you on your journey?
I think like anything you want to be successful at, I mean, just being intentional about it. And so making sure that you have a plan, right? I mean, if you've read James Clear's Atomic Habits, I mean, just you're making these small changes and then just keep doing them over and over and over. You're creating these, you're making these small turns of the ship, whether it be sleeping or, your exercise routine. Like even the gym I go to now is different than the gym I went to when we started. Frankly, I was intimidated at the other gym. There's always machines I don't know how to use. But you just keep going. And, every day you learn a little more and get a little more comfortable. And, it's just a slow, right? I mean, it's like if your listeners, have a business, you're growing a business. I mean, it's like Dave Ramsey talks about, he wants everybody, all the people in entree leadership to be on Slow Company magazine, right? I mean, you're like slowly, it's just, you cannot learn everything overnight, no matter what field of study you're in or what you're doing. I mean, you cannot become an expert overnight. Nobody does. And it takes time and intentionality, being dedicated. What I would always do and what I continue to do, right, is just think about what I want. Like, I want to be here when my kids are 30 years old, God willing. I want to actually like be able to, transition the business, whether it be to family or, other lawyers down the road. I don't want my clients to be, I mean, I've seen lawyers pass and their clients are just, like essentially a receiver gets appointed to handle the cases. And, I have obligations to my family, my kids, my clients, and so I kind of think about that. Why am I doing all this? And so that's been, and I think everybody, you've got to find your why. Like, why do you want to do the program? Why do you want to get in shape? Why do you want to, increase your chances of living, because the stats, if you make it to 65, where you're very likely to make it to 80 or 90, and, how do you want to decrease your odds of dying of a heart attack? Why do you want to do that? And so I think that of course, because it's mainly mental, right? I mean, it's mainly getting over and then just stop being lazy, stop eating out, stopping at the drive-through, ordering Uber Eats, whatever it is, and coming up with a plan and being intentional about it, and just knowing it's going to be bite-sized pieces, right? Baby steps.
Yeah. I like what you said to compare it to business. There's an element of paying your dues when it comes to being fit and healthy and being able to stay fit and healthy, right? I think when we talked about this maybe like a few months ago on one of our check-ins, like you've been in business for over 10 years now, right? Or you just passed the 10?
9 years now.
Oh, so you're approaching the 10-year mark. Like, when you have someone that's new that wants to start their own firm and they're like, I'm going to do all of these things and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, listen, young man, like you're going to trip and fall. And there's so many things you have to learn. Like there's so many systems you're going to have to build to be able to be at that place that you think is going to take you 2 years. Again, this is within a business context, not a transformation context. But you're like, oh yeah, like pay your dues. You're going to trip and fall, make mistakes. You have a lot to learn. It's the same thing with not just like getting fit, but staying fit and healthy. When you grab this more sustainable, longer route, you have more opportunities to learn those lessons and build these little systems and framework for yourself when you're traveling, when you're stressful, when you're on vacation, when you're at your house and it's busy. And that's why I'm excited for you, because you're obviously a very disciplined, organized, and system-oriented person. And as we've worked together, I saw you build these little systems for yourself for different situations. And that's something that's going to serve you outside of the program as you continue on your own after. And I think that's why you're able to have so much success in your life in terms of, your career, being able to have a good relationship with your wife, spending time with your kids, being able to prioritize this transformation amidst, having a 5-year-old child, running a company, being married, going on vacation, and kind of handling life. is because you've built systems and frameworks for yourself and you haven't been afraid to outsource and ask for help, which is one thing that a lot of people struggle with. Actually, tell me if you agree with this. I feel people that are very type A success oriented, there's two types of people as they kind of grow and scale. There's the one of like, no, I can do everything by myself and they're trying to figure it all out. And then there's the people that are like, yeah, no, I need a team and I need to outsource. And then those people, in my opinion, get more done, have more balance, and I would say more happiness in their life than the one that's trying to be a master of all and tries to do all of it. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that reminds us, I think Simon Sinek's book, The Ideal Team Player, and he talks about hungry, humble, and smart, right? Being humble enough to just know that you're not an expert and ask for help. And, somebody like yourself, you've worked with, I don't know how many people, if it's 1,000 people or whatever, it's like me evaluating a case or interviewing a job candidate, right? And you just kind of, you've seen so much of it that you kind of develop a sixth sense, but you're like an expert in that, right? You and your team. And so I do not, right? I don't deal with body recomposition all the time. I don't deal with how to coach people on all these physical and, mental barriers to, changing their nutrition in a culture that is, very driven towards fast food and processed foods and all of that. But no, we all need, and even those that, even me, right? I didn't get to where I'm at, like, all on my own. There's been lots of mentors and people in my history that have guided me and helped me along the way. And so that's what, you and the Fit Vegan program have done is, been one of those resources that I could rely on and lean on to get that advice and draw on that expertise to, get where I needed to be. So, of course, I thank you and thank your coaches and your team for helping me to get my stuff together as far as health. And of course, it's a constant journey. It's like, oh, I'm here. Like I get to sort of change now. No, it's not. And somebody asked me the other day, they said, are you going to stay on that diet? And so I'm not on a diet, it's like a lifestyle. Like I have no desire to look how I looked early 2024 whenever I started with you guys. And so, yeah. So thank you, Maxime, for, doing what you do and you guys offering what you offer, and wish I had found you guys 5-6 years ago, and kind of like my executive assistant, should have hired her a long time ago, or I should have gotten somebody like you a long time ago to give me that education and structure that I needed.
Yeah. Well, obviously, man, thank you for the kind words. And I appreciate you for actually doing the work. And even when the circumstances weren't ideal, you still find a way to make the best out of them. And the best part is like, you didn't quit, right? Which is the reason why you didn't fail. And you ultimately got to the position that you wanted to, because man, I can't eat the kale chips for you. I can't do the squats for you. I'm already doing my own of these. So you've put in the effort. It was just about guiding you and ensuring that you trusted the process and you stuck to the plan, basically. So you're pretty fun and pretty, easy to work with, because you were going to show up. You were going to do basically what was needed for you to succeed. And I think that's why, you've had a lot of success in your life, is because that's the mindset that's needed.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Patrick, man, massive thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to record this podcast with me. We're gonna find a time to come to Texas, and we'll do a workout video in person in the next few months. I'll have my answer from immigration by that point, so I should be able to stay in the country, so hopefully. And yeah, I always like to end on words of wisdom. So anyone that is on the verge of wanting to start their transformation, whether it's with us or it's on their own, of like taking that journey of improving themselves, any last words you'd like to share with them?
Just small steps, right? I mean, just one thing at a time. Make that substitution at the coffee shop, or, get up 30 minutes earlier and walk around the neighborhood, get some sunlight when you wake up, try to go to bed 30 minutes earlier, just take those small steps, and eventually it will, it's like a snowball, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most exciting part is once you start to see changes, which takes a while. John Maxwell talks about, water freezing in his book, The Laws of Leadership, and like the temperature is dropping, but you don't see changes. And so it keeps dropping and there's no changes. And then all of a sudden, it gets below freezing and it's like frozen.
Yeah.
And then you see the change, right? You don't see the changes from 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 70 degrees, 60 degrees. And I was, and that's kind of how I would equate this process, right? You're making these changes, these incremental changes, and it's not going to happen like overnight. And of course, I still have a long way to go, but, I at least feel like I have a much better foundation, a much more solid grounding in education and habits to get going. And so just do it. Start with those small changes, and they will snowball, and you will start to see big changes in your body and your life and your cognitive function and your relationships and everything else.
Beautiful. Well, beautiful words to end on. Patrick, I appreciate you again for taking the time. For everyone listening, if you're interested in working with us and get a great transformation, and I don't take on clients anymore because we have an incredible team of coaches. So if you're interested, book your free body recomposition call down below, and then you'll get to speak with probably Ivy, to be honest with you. So you have a nice conversation with Ivy, get some information about the program. So Patrick, thank you very much for jumping on. And everyone, we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Right. Thank you again.